Hi everyone, my name is Lisa Noah and I am the Graduate Admin Associate in the Biology and Marine Biology Department at UNCW. I just want to start off by welcoming you to our graduate program and the department. We are so excited to start off this year with you, even under the circumstances. We're so glad that you're able to join us and we can find some sort of normalcy together. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. One, Dr. Kinsey and I will be having a Q&A meet and greet via Zoom immediately after this. I emailed the link out to all of you, but it is also down in the description box for ease. Two, there will also be a TA bootcamp today hosted by the BioGSA. It will be this afternoon at 2 p.m. I also emailed that link out to everybody. The bootcamp will be recorded and available for viewing after if for some reason you can't make it, but they'll go over, TA basics and things like that. So they're doing that. Please go to that if you can. And I think that that's it for housekeeping. So to start off, we're going to do some introductions. First, we have our wonderful and delightful chair, Dr. Heather Koopman.
Hello, and welcome to the Department of Biology and Marine Biology. I'm Dr. Heather Koopman. I'm the chair of this fantastic department. And you will learn that it is indeed fantastic as you get to know our faculty, our staff, and our students. You're about to embark on an adventure, and hopefully one that you will consider, looking back, as one of the best parts of your entire scientific career trajectory, being a graduate student. When I think about how I got to where I am now, I think most fondly of the times that I was a master's student and a PhD student, because you're sort of learning and working for yourself. It's very exciting. You're going to be learning new techniques and approaches and asking all kinds of new questions. And for some of you, you're also going to be teaching for the first time. So there's a lot to do and a lot to learn and a lot to take in. But I want you to take the time to also get to know your cohort, the students around you, as well as the existing students in the department, because this is going to be your support system. Now, you're also going to have Lisa Noah and Steve Kinsey to go to if you have any issues or questions or concerns, and they're very good at solving any kinds of problems. But I also wanted to let you know that as department chair, I care very much and I'm very committed to our graduate program and our graduate students on an individual level. So I want you to know that if you have any questions or concerns or you just want to talk, I'm here for you. I have an open door policy or a virtually open door policy. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have any issues or concerns. So in the meantime, get ready for your first semester at UNCW in what is a very unprecedented, unusual, and challenging time. But I hope it's also one that has a great fundamental education experience and a good scientific one. So there's a lot to do, as I said, and a lot to learn, and the learning curve will be steep. But I want to make sure you also enjoy your time with us. We have a strong graduate program, and it's because we have great students like you. So again, welcome to the department.
She's super awesome. And now I want to introduce you to the lovely ladies who work in the office with me, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Tracy, and I'm one of the administrative associates in biology and marine biology in charge of purchasing. So any items that your faculty member needs to buy for you or for themselves, they'll send information to me. And also, if you buy anything anything that needs to be reimbursed related to your lab or your research, you'll also send that information to me. Welcome.
My name is Rachel Gentry. I am the admin that handles the travel in the biology and marine biology department. So if you have any questions regarding travel or how to process something for travel, just let me know and I can help you troubleshoot it.
Hello, welcome to Biology Marine Biology Department. My name is Brenda and I handle all of our budget needs. So I will not work with you on a daily basis, but I am here for you if you need anything. My office is in the same area as the other ladies are located. So please feel free to contact me with anything that you may need.
So, hi, I'm Emma Stiles. I'm the receptionist for the Biology and Marine Biology Department, and I will be the one that you guys send your lab materials to get them printed off for the time being.
And Last but certainly not least I want to introduce you to the BioGSA officers.
Hi, my name is Gabriella DeSouza, and I'm the president of the Biology Graduate Student Association for the upcoming academic year. The goal of the Graduate Student Association is to strengthen the graduate student community through social events and professional development. We'd also like to be a representative for your concerns and interests. For more information on joining the BioGSA, please contact me or another one of the BioGSA officers. We'd be happy to help.
Hi, my name is Bryce Corbett, and I will be your Vice President of BioGSA for the upcoming academic year. I'm a second-year graduate student in Dr. Fogarty's lab, and my degree will be in marine biology. There are two main goals of a Vice President in BioGSA, and that's to encourage communication between cohorts, social events, as well as between cohorts. So we all kind of want to get to know each other, kind of learn how to work together, learn from each other, help each other out as much as possible, especially during times like these. I also will be stepping in case Gabriella is ever unavailable and serve to kind of head meetings, etc., so forth. I'm really excited to be working with you guys, and if you guys want to get involved or have any ideas for social events for the year, please feel free to email me or any of my other officers. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Spear. I am a non-binary marine biology master's student. My thesis is about autophagy in black sea bass. I am your active treasurer. This means I keep track of incoming and outgoing money within our organization. We have a set amount of money each year that allows us to help graduate students attend conferences. Normally, this would include travel. However, due to COVID, most conferences are transitioning to online formats. We hope that this change allows us to support more students this year. I look forward to working with the student body over the upcoming year.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan Miller. I am a current master's student in Dr. Koopman's lab, and my thesis is about decompression sickness in marine mammals and their susceptibility to it. So I am the current secretary of the Biology Graduate Student Association, and basically my role as secretary is to keep track of enrollment as well as keep track of our point system. And so in order for a student to receive travel money from the BioGSA, they need to have a certain number of points. And these points are accumulated from a variety of BioGSA activities, such as meetings and bake sales, etc. So if you have any questions about the point system or about BioGSA in general, please feel free to contact me or any of the BioGSA officers, and hopefully I'll get to meet some of the new grad students soon, maybe even in person. Thank you, everyone.
Great. So the BioGSA officers, like I said, are in charge of the TA bootcamp, so you'll be seeing more of them later. All right, so now Dr. Kinsey has a PowerPoint presentation where he's going to go over the basic things about the program that you need to know.
Well, hello, everyone. I want to welcome you all to graduate school. My name is Steve Kinsey. I am the graduate coordinator, and I've spoken to all of you either via email, at least, or phone, or sometimes in person, although that's become more rare lately. As you can see, I'm having orientation from my office at my house. But we're really excited to have all of you join the program. And I just wanted to give you an overview of, in this sort of orientation module, of some of the major things that you might have questions about. And then we'll also be available for specific questions after, today, after you view the orientation module. So I think there, and in addition to that, I'm available all the time if you need to email me or call to get in touch with me about any sort of issues that you might have. So I want to start off by just introducing you to some important contacts, and most important is Lisa Noah, who many of you have already talked to quite a few times. Lisa is the graduate administrative assistant for our department, so she basically helps with all of graduate student issues that arise in our department, and she and I work together to solve any sort of problems that you might have, to do scheduling issues, degree audit issues, any sort of issues with graduation, all of that sort of thing. And so Lisa is sort of the go-to person, so I put these in order of importance, with Lisa being most important. The second most important person is going to be your advisor. And your thesis advisor is the person that's going to be sort of your mentor throughout this process. And they are the ones who are going to mentor you scientifically through your project, but they'll also help you with choosing courses, making other sorts of decisions like that. So you really want to rely on them as much as possible. And then, of course, the third most important of this group is me. I'm a professor in the Department of Biology and Marine Biology, and I'm also the graduate coordinator. And between Lisa and your advisor and me, we try to solve any sort of issues that you guys may have as you're working your way through graduate school. So you can get in touch with Lisa or me anytime. My contact information is here. Both of us are in Dobo Hall, which is reopening after we were essentially evicted after it was damaged in Hurricane Florence 2 years ago. But we're all moving back, so you can catch up with us in Dobo Hall, as well as by email or phone. And then also, if you are a marine science master's student, so that's a separate program, but several of you that are in that marine science master's program are also teaching in the Department of Biology and Marine Biology, because you have advisors that are in our department. And so we are happy to have you as part of the program, even though I don't administer that, and Lisa doesn't administer that program. It's Steve Scrable, who is the coordinator for that program. But I'm happy to help in any way I can, and I am the one who will assign teaching assistantships for those of you who are in that program. So we thought it might be useful for you to attend our orientation as well. So a couple of important events that you need to know about. TA Boot Camp is going to be at 2 p.m. On Wednesday, August 12th. And so that's basically right after our graduate school orientation for our department. And Lisa and I will be available. We're recording a module, but we're also going to be available on before the TA boot camp to address specific questions that you might have. Also, there is a graduate school orientation that's run by the graduate school, not by our department. And they're going to cover things that we don't really deal with. And so make sure that you attend that. That's a mandatory orientation. Just like we're doing, they're doing it as an online module. You know, it's not as good as being there in person, but that's sort of what we're doing for now with the pandemic. So make sure you attend both of those events. Even if you're not a TA for your first semester, it's a good idea to go to TA boot camp, because you'll get to meet the other graduate students in our department. And at some point, you're likely to be a TA, even if you aren't at the very beginning. And so it's a good way to meet the other graduate students who are the ones who run this. And then a couple of other things. I just want to say a few things for those of you who, some of you may have already been in graduate school, you may have gotten a master's and now you're moving on to a PhD, but some of you may be going into graduate school for the first time, like most of you are. And I just want to say a couple of things about that. First, being a graduate student is not like being an undergraduate. It's sort of fundamentally different. When you are an undergraduate student, the way that you think about things is generally in terms of a week or two in advance, 3 weeks in advance, something like that. You're given assignments, and then you have to study, either complete those assignments or study for an exam that might be 2 or 3 weeks into the future. And then you do that, and then you move on to the next thing that you're more or less told to do. As a graduate student, that's not at all how things work. As a graduate student, you're more expected to initiate work yourself. So you'll still have classes, but classes are a much smaller component of, essentially that's most of what an undergraduate degree is. But for a graduate student, most of what the graduate degree experience is doing the research that you're going to be making your thesis out of. that requires sort of you initiating that process. In other words, you are the one who's, I guess one way to think about it is, if you feel like you're not making progress, if you feel like you're hung up or you're stuck, the person you're waiting on is not somebody else. Usually, you're not waiting on your advisor or your committee. You're basically waiting on yourself. And I think it's that realization that's really important to make as early as possible in your graduate career. And that is that you need to be sort of taking responsibility to initiate things. And that doesn't mean you have to fully develop a project. Every advisor is different, but most of them are going to give you guidance. But they're also going to expect that in many cases, if they don't hear from you, they just assume things are going fine. And so you don't want to be sort of sitting on the sidelines waiting for something to happen. You want to initiate conversations with your committee, with your advisor, with other graduate students. You want to sort of be reading literature on your own, trying to be as proactive as possible in terms of moving forward with your project. And that takes some getting used to, because it's very different from the way that undergraduate research or undergraduate education works, which is very much more geared toward assignments and tests at a very short time into the future. You're going to go from shifting from thinking about weeks in advance to thinking about months and even years in advance, where you're sort of thinking about how you're going to get your project done. And so always be realizing that it's sort of on you to move the project forward with the help of your advisor. You're going to work really hard. That's the only way to get everything done. There's a lot of things to do when you're a graduate student. And what you're going to find is the best way to do that is to treat it like a full-time job. Treat it as if you get up every day, you come into the lab, you start working, and you try to accomplish something every day, even if your advisor isn't telling you exactly what to do every day. So you're going to work really hard. You're going to be poor. That's just the nature of graduate school. All of us were poor as graduate students. You're going to be poor too. But you are working towards something that's going to better yourself. You're working toward an advanced degree, which is still a rare type of degree. And so you're making a sacrifice from a financial standpoint, but you are getting something in reward for it. And so that's something to, when you're in the lowest points, when you feel like you're sort of not making as much progress as you would like, and you're not making very much money, and you're worried about paying bills and that sort of thing, just tell yourself this is a short-term stint in poverty, and ultimately you're working towards something that's important. And related to that is you really want to do your part to maintain a good relationship with your advisor. Your thesis advisor is the person that you're here to learn from, and it may not be exactly what you expected coming in, because every one of us, all of the faculty are different. Every one of us has a different way of mentoring. There are some faculty members who are more or less hands-off, and they say let's come up with some ideas for projects and then go do them. And then some advisors are very hands-on. They're sort of looking over your shoulder, checking on you every day. Part of what your job is to help manage that relationship, and ideally you have a good relationship with your advisor, and you recognize their strengths, and it helps to build your strengths in those and related areas. And I would say the most important thing to do is to maintain an open line of communication. If you really are feeling like you're stumped, or you're just stuck and you're not moving forward, you need to tell your advisor, and it's better to tell them early than later. Usually that fixes any sorts of concerns that you have, is maintaining that open level of communication. So, however, there are cases where you and your advisor, just for whatever reason, it doesn't there's not a good match. Or there's a problem that you feel like you can't resolve on your own by talking to them. In that case, you come to me, and I am happy to try to help you through that process. And in the worst case scenario, sometimes you may find, I really don't like this research, or I really don't like the way my advisor functions in the lab. And you really decide it's better if we part ways. That happens occasionally. It's not a fatal problem. It's something that what we try to do is to try to find somebody who is a better match in the department. Once you're in our program, we try to keep you in our program, and we try to make you a success. And we hope that you will do the same thing, that you'll work toward completing your degree, even if you start to hit a wall like that. So in the worst case, where you're having problems with your advisor that you feel you can't deal with yourself, just come talk to me, and that's always going to be confidential. I would never reveal anything to your advisor without your permission. So you can always talk and not worry about it getting back to your advisor. So, okay. So now I want to go through some of the sort of specific information that might be relevant to you. So let's talk about course registration and tuition. So you want to register early. So like now, we want to have you registered. In the future, you'll already be in the program. I know for those of you who are just coming, you really haven't had a chance to register early. But once you're in the program, you want to register for classes early. We won't let you get dropped for non-payment. We'll basically tell the registrar's office not to drop you, because what happens sometimes is your bill is not accurate. In other words, the bill that you look at online will say that you owe more money than you do. And that may be because we haven't entered your tuition remission yet. And so they're charging you for out of state because we haven't put it in yet. There are a number of reasons why that is the way it is. We're always balancing budgets and who's taking how many credits and that sort of thing. So that's another reason that it's important to register early. We need to know how many credits you're taking, and so that we can put in the right amount of tuition. And be aware, if you register for, say, 8 hours of credit, and we give you a tuition remission for 8 hours, and then you change your mind and you say drop a class and go down to 5 hours, they're going to want that money back. So they're going to, and it's going to be months later, and they're going to say you owe $1,400 for credits that we paid for that you didn't take. So it's really important that we know how many hours you're taking, and you may get emails saying you're going to be dropped for non-payment. Just email Lisa with that information, and we can tell you whether you're really going to be dropped. Like I said, every year we put in a list of don't drop our graduate students because the bills are screwed up and they're not ready yet. This year, it's even more of an issue because a lot of classes are online, and the cost for online classes is different from the cost for normal courses, face-to-face courses. And so they're a little behind in terms of calculating your cost. And so anyway, just like with your advisor, just maintain an open line of communication with us. Don't change your credit hours without telling us so that we can fix the payments that you receive. When you register, you'll register online, just like you all probably did as undergraduates. For some courses, there are actually forms that you fill out. Instead of just going online and selecting the course, you go to the graduate school website, and there's a forms page, and it's for certain classes that you'll see and those are courses like thesis hours and independent study courses and research hours, things like that. So those are available at that website. One really important thing to be aware of is that course credits are bundled for payment purposes. And what that means is I've got the bundles shown here for graduate students. 1 to 2 credits of 1 to 2 credits cost a certain amount. 3 to 5 credits cost a certain amount, and so on. And what that means is, so if you, most frequently, we give you 8 credit hours of tuition remission money. So we give you enough to take 6 to 8 hours. So in that case, you want to take 8. You don't want to take 6 because you're paying for 8 because the price is the same. So take 8. The only time that would not be the case is if you just don't need any more credits. Let's say you've got your 30 hours for your master's degree and you only need 6 more, then it's okay to just take 6. But don't ever leave courses laying on the table, credit hours laying on the table, because we're paying for them. Always take at the upper end of the bracket. And this is just a trick. UNCW didn't invent this. This is a trick that universities figured out a while ago, because if it's a single price for 6 to 8 credits, that means every time somebody takes 6, the university keeps the change for the other 2 hours that were delivered or that were paid for, but that weren't actually delivered. So as I said, we usually provide out-of-state tuition remissions for up to 8 credits, but sometimes we can do more. It just sort of depends on the budget. It depends on how many students we have at a given time, how many credits hours people need. But if in some cases we can pay for you to take 9 hours or more, and the price for taking, you can take up to 15 if you pay for 9. And if you think about that, that's basically you're paying for 9 and you're getting 6 more credits free. So if you are a master's student and we can afford, let's say you're out of state, and I tell you, you can take, we can afford to give you a 9-hour tuition remission. That means you can take 15 hours, and basically, if you did that 2 semesters, you knock all of your classes out in a year. And then after your credit hours are complete, you enroll in a course called Bio 600, that's if you're a master's student, and Bio 700 if you're a PhD student. And Bio 600 and 700 are what are called continuous enrollment. And it's basically a 1-credit class that doesn't go on your transcripts, but it keeps you enrolled as a full-time student. And it only costs like $230 a semester. So if you're an in-state student, then for master's students who are in-state, you have to pay the in-state part of tuition. And so you can save yourself a lot of money by taking a bunch of credits and knocking them all out in a year, and then starting to go on continuous enrollment where you're only paying $230 or so a year. It doesn't always work, and we may not have the money to do it. But if you're in-state, you can do it whenever you want, because in-state students have to pay the in-state component of tuition. If you're out of state, you can only do it if we have enough money in out-of-state remissions to give you 9 hours plus. So the only way to know that is to check with us. So if you're interested in doing that and you're an out-of-state student, let us know, and we will see if we have enough money to give you 9 hours. I don't know that we will, but we might. If you're in state, you can do it. It's more expensive up front, but in the long run, you save yourself a lot of money. And you can go on the tuition website on the graduate school webpage and calculate what the savings are, because it's pretty substantial to do that. Obviously, if you don't really want to take 15 hours of real credits, if you are a graduate student, that's too many courses. And so what you would really be taking are some filler credits. So you might take 2 or 3 courses that are real courses, and then the rest of those would be, say, research hours or thesis hours or a directed independent study project. There are any number of filler type courses that you could take to fill up that 15 hours. So if you're interested in that, let us know. And this is just a list of some of what those filler classes are. 598 is research credits. You can only take 3 of those total if you're a master's student. 599 is thesis. You have to take 3 credits as a master's student. You can take up to 6. 591 for master's and 691 for a PhD student is a directed independent study course. You can take up to 16 hours of that total. So anyway, the others are listed here. But all of them are ways to fill up your schedule so that you can get on continuous enrollment and save money. And then one other thing about that, many of you are going to need to be a full-time graduate student for financial aid purposes. So technically being a full-time student means that you're enrolled in 9 credit hours. You won't always be enrolled in 9 hours. So for instance, I just gave the example, what if you took 15 hours for 2 semesters and then the rest of your time here as a master's student, for instance, you would be taking only 1 credit of continuous enrollment. So this is certainly something that could be the case where you're not taking 9 hours, but there are other ways to reach full-time status in the eyes of the graduate school. And those are listed here. I won't read through those, but in particular, the one that's most relevant is the last one to most of you. And that is that if you're enrolled in even 1 credit of any of those courses, 598 is research, 599 is thesis, 698 is research, and 699 is dissertation. Any of those is now you're, unlike when you're an undergraduate, you're now an employee of the Department of Biology and Marine Biology. And you have to think about that in the way that you conduct yourself away from UNCW, as well as while you're here, but also when you're away. You're a representative of our department and of the university, and an employee, whether you're a teaching assistant or a research assistant. In both cases, you're representing us. And so this is, you want to think about that in terms of how you might be viewed from the outside. And I want to really emphasize that even though many of you were undergraduates just a few months ago, you're going to notice, especially when you start TAing, that there's a gap between being an undergraduate and being a graduate student. It's amazing how quickly it happens. And so you want to be especially cautious on how you behave toward undergraduate students, and especially those that you might be students in one of your classes that you're a TA in. And the same goes for social media. It's the old, one way to think about it is you don't put anything on there that you wouldn't want your grandmother to see. And you sort of want to think that way as a representative of the department. Think about the fact that if you put something on social media, your students may see it, their parents might see it, and as might your advisor, other faculty members in the department. And so just be cautious and only put things on social media that are appropriate and that you aren't concerned about being seen by your students, faculty, and so on. And also, it's really important to recognize you can't socialize with your students while you're teaching them in class, either face-to-face or via social media. It's just better to have that relationship is class-only related, and it only happens in the appropriate setting, during your office hours or in the classroom or via email. So don't strike up personal relationships with students, especially while you're teaching them. So there's a really exciting document called the Graduate Student Handbook. It's exactly as exciting as it sounds like, but it's our departmental manual for the rules and policies and procedures for our graduate program. We're going to put an updated version of it on our website, but it's on our departmental website, and you can look at that. So if you have questions about setting up your committee, things like that, those are located in the Graduate Student Handbook. It's different from the Graduate Catalog, which is just like the catalog that you would have had as an undergraduate. The Graduate Catalog is run by the graduate school. It has all the course descriptions, the rules, degree requirements, and those sorts of things like an undergraduate catalog would. Our handbook is more focused on our departmental policies, which go into specific details about, that are relevant to you. Insurance and parking, one of my favorite topics. I'm joking. I said earlier you were going to be poor. Insurance and parking, helps to ensure that you're going to be poor as a graduate student. All of you are required to have health insurance. You can have it, your own personal insurance, you could be on a parent's plan, or there is the plan that's available to students through the university. In whatever case you're in, whether you have your own insurance or you want the university one, you need to go to the graduate school website and either accept the university's student health plan or you need to decline it if you have your own insurance. And you can do that by following, going to the graduate school website. There's a button that says admitted, and then that you plan to attend UNCW, and that's how you get to that process of accepting or waiving the university insurance. And then, a really frustrating aspect of my job is that every year I have to tell graduate students that they have to have, that they have to pay for parking. And the prices that are charged to graduate students are too expensive. It's too much relative to the amount of money that they make. But some of you, many of you, are going to have to buy them because either you don't live close enough to bike or walk in, or that's usually the reason, or you just need to be on campus. So they're expensive, but you may have to do it. And you do the same thing. You can go to get to the parking and to buy your parking permit. You just go to the admitted in which you plan to attend UNCW link, and it'll give you this list of steps, and you can go to parking there. If you are the instructor of record, which means most of you aren't, especially initially, but after you have a certain amount of experience, you may be allowed to teach a course where you don't have a lab coordinator, you're actually the one running the class. Like I said, that's more common among PhD students and senior master students, but most of you will just be a regular TA. And in either case, sometimes you can upgrade to park in non-gated faculty lots, which are closer than the lots that students have. And that's especially important if you're having to commute from a class, say at CMS, to one of your to one of your TA assignments. You may need to find parking quickly. Or you may need to haul things from your car into the building, and that might require that you be closer. So after classes start, sometimes TA permits are available where you can get your permit upgraded. And so you just have to check with parking and transportation services to see if that happens. And Lisa can also help you with that. Okay, in-state residency. Most of you, all of you, when you applied, you had to fill out an online survey where they decide whether you're in-state or whether you're out-of-state for tuition purposes. And, our department provides out-of-state waivers, tuition waivers for out-of-state students. And that means that we cover the out-of-state part of tuition. You're still responsible for the in-state part of tuition. But we have a limited amount of funds for this, and we have a limited number of remissions. So it's important that the students who are out of state become in-state residents while they're here. And you can only do that after a year. You have to have been here a year, and you have to have sort of proved residency. And so what we ask you to do is, if you're an out-of-state student, to do as many of these things as you can to establish yourself as a resident so that you can reapply for residency after you've been here a year. So the list of things that you can do, like registering a car and so on, are here. And so I would appreciate it if you could do that as soon as you can so that you start the clock ticking and we can try to get you residency in North Carolina. Some of you can't. Sometimes there are cases like, for insurance reasons, you might have a pre-existing health condition that doesn't allow you to be out of state, but usually that's not a problem. But just let me know if there's a reason you can't. It's not a huge deal if you can't, as long as most people can. Every Friday, we have a departmental seminar, and all graduate students are expected to attend this. It's Friday at 3 o'clock. It's a right and a responsibility of graduate students, and it's one of the good things that we do. Unfortunately, this semester, they're all going to be online. They're all going to be via Zoom. You know, hopefully we're going to get past the stage where everything is online, and it's a chance for all of us to get together on Fridays, and the graduate students set out coffee and cookies, and we all get a chance to socialize a little bit and watch an interesting seminar. So try to come to those whenever you can. And also, so those are on Fridays, our regularly scheduled seminars, but we also sometimes have thesis defenses that are other times of the week. So try to go to those too, both to learn whatever it is that people are doing, but also to support your fellow graduate students. So try to, you know, be as engaged with the rest of the community as you can. Also, each semester we have, for the master's students, we have a prospectus symposium. For PhD students, you have to give a seminar at some point during your time here. You have to give a seminar that's a prospectus defense, but those are done individually for PhD students. For master's students, everybody does them at once. And so it's a really big event that we do every semester. It's biggest in the spring because most new graduate students come in the fall. And so after you've been here 2 semesters, toward the end of the spring semester, we'll have the graduate student prospectus symposium. And we'll do one in the fall as well. It's just going to be smaller. And this is the whole department gets together, and you will present a short presentation of your project, 10 to 12 minutes, and then we'll have 3 to 5 minutes for questions from the audience. And all of the graduate students will be there, the faculty will be there. You get a really good opportunity to learn how to give a presentation, because one of the best things about this is because it's such a big event, and we all really look forward to it every year. The graduate students have a lot of experience with this. The ones who are more senior graduate students have all been through it. And the newer graduate students get lots of sort of information up front about how to do this. And they also get, you'll also get chances to practice as a group. So the graduate students sort of really do a great job of facilitating training in this process, so that by the time that you actually are giving this talk, you've already been through it several times in front of other people. You've gotten feedback from your fellow graduate students, from your advisor, and usually it comes off really well. Everyone's on time, does a really good job, and it's a very helpful process in terms of giving you experience giving these talks, but also in helping to codify your project and get confidence in the direction that you're going. So that's something that you'll do. Those of you who are starting this fall, you'll do that toward the end of the spring semester. And we'll give you a lot more information on that when it gets closer. And just as for those of you who don't know, the prospectus, the name prospectus is, it's as it says in the right up here, it's basically the document that goes with the talk. And it is a document that you submit to your committee that outlines your project. And so normally it entails an introduction that has background information with relevant literature cited about the project and what question or hypotheses you're testing. And then what your plan is, the methods that you're going to use to test those hypotheses. So you write the document, the prospectus, you give it to your committee, and then you also give a talk to the whole department. And it's a really fun event. And then we usually have our picnic right afterwards. So. Okay, so almost all of you will serve as a TA at some point during your time here. And first of all, most of you haven't done it before. A lot of you are coming right out of being an undergraduate in the spring, and now it's the fall and you're going to be put in front of undergraduates as a TA. It seems really intimidating and daunting. I promise you, when you get in there, you're going to be surprised at how much further ahead you are than the students that are in your class. Even though you were one of them, just a few months ago, you will have advanced well beyond them, especially because you'll come in prepared for the lab and they will come in cold. And you will, even though you're young and are again just out of undergraduate yourself, most of you will be teaching even younger students. Most of you will be teaching freshmen and some sophomores and juniors, but most of you will be teaching freshmen. And so there's a big difference between a freshman and a first-year graduate student. And most of you know that from how much you change during the time that you're in graduate school. So if you're stressed about it, I would say don't be. If you're worried about the subject material, you'll be fine. Even if it's not something that you're really comfortable with, I try to assign you things that are relevant to your lab to teach. But even if you feel you're a little bit uncomfortable with the material going in, I promise you'll be fine once you get trained on the material and you have a little bit of chance to read up a little bit of background information. I can't emphasize enough that being a TA is one of the most important things that you'll do here. We all come here to be teachers to be researchers. I mean, I think that's what we mostly planned on doing. That's why you go to graduate school, is you are interested in a certain area of research. And I think as faculty, we come out of postdocs and we get hired with lots of experience in research and oftentimes very little experience teaching. But I can tell you that when you are a parent, the thing that you want to happen is when you're paying lots of tuition money to send your student, your child to school as an undergraduate, you expect the faculty and the TAs to do a really good job educating your child. And I want you to think about that when you're thinking about preparing and when you're in class and responding to your students, that they are paying a lot of money to have you stand in front of them. And so you want to think about that and take it very seriously and do the best that you can. For some of you, teaching will come very easily, and you may find out, like I did, that, wow, this is really fun. I really like this. It wasn't what I was really trained to do, but it really is a gratifying part of my job. And some of you will find that, wow, this is kind of hard. I'm not, I'm kind of feel like I'm struggling to do this. But you'll get better at it, and you'll learn a lot in the process of doing this. And so it's a really good experience. You'll learn a lot about the subject matter, you'll learn a lot about yourself, and you'll learn a lot about communication, which is a critical skill. So just take it very seriously. Make sure you dress appropriately, that you show up and you're prepared for the lab, and that you're responsive to your students. And I can't emphasize this enough. You guys know when you were applying to graduate school, you sent emails to advisors, to me, to Lisa, and you're sort of hanging on, waiting for a response. You can't do that with students that are paying you to be in the lab. You have to respond quickly. And that's, as just while I'm talking about, that's usually going to be by email. And while I'm talking about email, that needs to be sort of on your, in your mind in general. You get emails from me or from Lisa or from your students or from your advisor. You really need to be responsive to those emails and read them. We don't send out a ton of emails, but the ones that we send out, we definitely need you to read. So just like I said before, it's even more, it's most important with the students that you teach. You cannot have a relationship, any kind of personal relationship outside of class with students in your class while they're in your class. It's just not appropriate. You can get in a lot of trouble, and so it looks bad. So don't do that. One of the really important things to recognize, especially for those if you're worried about not knowing enough about the subject material you're going to be teaching, you don't have to develop the labs. Your lab coordinator is going to do that. They're going to meet with you before the lab. They're going to train you on how to do the lab. You'll have a chance to ask questions. And so you're going to be prepared for lab. You just need to do your part and make sure that assignments that were turned in by your class, that you graded them and you get them back to the students in a timely fashion, that you know the material that you're going to be covering. It's okay that you're not going to know everything. They're going to ask you questions you don't know the answer to. I've been teaching over 20 years and I still get asked questions all the time that I don't know the answer to. That's not me. That's not a weakness. You just want to make sure that you know what you need to know for the purposes of doing a good job teaching. So you just provide, you sort of execute the labs. You're not the one who has to develop them. The lab coordinator will do that. And make sure also that you get your grades in, both you get them back to the students. You guys all know how frustrating it is when you don't get grades back in a timely fashion, as you would have found as an undergrad. They're going to feel the same way about you if you don't get your grades back to them in a timely fashion. But it's really critical that at the end of the semester, you get your grades, your final grades submitted either, well, it would go to your lab coordinator for them to finally submit them. So make sure you do that on the timetable that they give you. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the Bio-GSA, that's the Biology Graduate Student Association, they have a TA boot camp after orientation that will give you more specific advice and advice for specific classes that you may be teaching. Okay, so a couple more things. One, just when you're working in the lab, you're going to be spending most of your time working in your advisor's lab or in the field and in and out of the lab. So the most important thing is you want to be safe. So make sure you are aware of safety procedures for the lab, hazard safety equipment, where it is, and don't use anything if you don't feel comfortable that you've been trained adequately. Don't use equipment, don't use any chemicals if you don't fully understand the risks and the procedures for working with them. Make sure you're wearing appropriate attire, obviously closed-toed shoes if you're working in an environment where you might have chemical spill and that kind of thing. And any sort of volatile compounds like formaldehyde, you need to do that in a fume hood. And then the material safety data sheets, or MSDS, are available in your lab. Some people keep hard copies of those because they get shipped with the chemicals that you order. But if they're not available as hard copies, you can get them online from the manufacturers for anything that you ordered. So anything that you're working with, make sure that you are aware of the MSDS and any potential risks that are associated with those chemicals. If you do have an emergency, you can call Environmental Health and Services for like a spill cleanup or some problem that is not really immediate danger. But if there's any sort of emergency, and especially after hours, just call campus police. And the extension is 222. It's all twos. 22222. It should be 5 twos. Okay, the last thing I just want to mention, office space and computers. Your office is usually in your advisor's lab. Most students just have a space in the lab where they set up a desk and they keep all of their stuff. And ideally, every student would have an office separate from the lab. It's just not practical. We don't have office space for graduate students as a rule, so you'll probably be in your advisor's lab, which is not all bad because it keeps you connected with everyone else that's in the lab. There is some space reserved for graduate students in Friday Hall, and Dr. Fred Scharf sort of administers that space. And there is joint use office space at the Center for Marine Science. And if you have any questions about that space, you can just check with the front desk at the Center for Marine Science. But in general, most of you will be in your advisor's labs. If your advisor may provide lab computers, to run equipment and that sort of thing, and there might be personal computers, but most people, I think most graduate students generally have their own laptops that they use. And there is free software available that we have licenses for through the university, so you can just go to computer services to get access to that stuff.
Sweet. I guess now it's my turn. I will do my best to keep this quick. So again, I'm the graduate admin for the department. I'm basically your first call for graduate program related problems. I will do my best to help you figure out the issue, and if I can't, I will do my best to find someone who can. So if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to let me know. So there are going to be some office changes for the fall. This is a bit weird because in the past, we've always had an open door policy, and we love it when students come in and say hi, but we'll be working sort of on a closed door policy for the fall. We'll also be working a staggered schedule, so we won't all be in the office on the same days. I'll be in the office on Thursdays. So if there is something that you need that can't be handled over Zoom or by email, Thursdays are the days to look for me. However, I am always reachable by email. So now I'm just gonna go over a few quick things. I wasn't able to get your orientation packets ready in time for this, but I will be emailing you orientation packets. They will have all of the information that you would normally receive in your folder, just in PDF form. So look for those probably early next week. I'll have all of those done and ready for you. So now I'm going to talk about payroll, which I am sure you're all very curious about. So almost all of you, if not all of you, have either a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship. You will get paid on they are 5 months stipends. They pay August through December. You get paid on the last working day of every month. So if that is a Tuesday, then you'll get paid on Tuesday. If it is, if the last day is a Saturday, you'll get paid, the Friday before. If for some reason you go to check your bank and the money isn't there, I need you to tell me immediately. We only run payroll twice a month, and there are deadlines associated with sub-checks and that kind of thing, so I don't want to make you wait any longer for a check than you need to. So the sooner you tell me, the better. However, we'll do everything in our power to make sure that doesn't happen. But I want you to be aware so that if it does happen, you can tell me immediately. So now I'm going to talk about workers' comp. So we want you to be safe, but just in case you do get hurt. The first thing, there are a couple of steps in all of this that we want you to keep in mind. And we know that people, in the moment it might get jumbled, but just, as a prepared moment. The first thing you do if you get hurt on the job is to tell your supervisor. There are steps that they'll need to take and people they'll need to tell once you've gotten hurt. So you have to tell them first, then you're to seek appropriate medical attention. There are approved medical facilities that the school wants you to go to for this. If it's a really serious injury, they want you to go to the Cape Fear Hospital emergency room. For less serious injuries, there's a medac on Military Cutoff Road that they would like all the students to go to. And then employees are expected to return to work that same day unless their attending physician says that they shouldn't, for which there are paperwork that they would need for that, which the doctor at urgent care or the ER would provide for you. And then there is paperwork that you'll have to fill out upon your return as far as statement of injury and all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure that this is all on a poster in your labs as well, but it's always good to go over just to have it in the back of your mind. It will also be included in the orientation packet you'll get next week. So that's done. A quick note about health insurance. I know Dr. Kinsey talked about it. So if you don't need it, please go into CNET and deny it. If you don't, there's a cutoff date, and if you don't deny it by that cutoff date, they will charge you for it. It cannot be reversed, and you will have 2 insurances for the fall. And it is very expensive. One of the reasons it is one of the major reasons, as Dr. Kinsey was talking about, that you are poor as a graduate student if you have university health insurance. So if you don't need it, please go into CNET and decline it. I will send out a reminder email once I figure out the dates that it needs to be declined by, but if you're thinking about it today and you haven't already done it, go and deny it today, please. And then TA parking, just a note, you do already have to, if you haven't already bought a parking pass, you have to have the base pass in order to be upgraded to a TA pass. Just so you know, it is very expensive. I know, I'm sorry. And then just one last thing about, one additional thing about in-state residency. I found out last year that they count any apartment labeled as like student living, like the really nice student living apartments that surround UNCW's campus do not qualify as a domicile under the North Carolina residency program. You have to live in a non-student living apartment for at least 6 months, for more than 6 months. During that year in order to qualify for residency. So keep that in mind when looking for places to live and things like that. All right, departmental forms. So there is a timeline associated with your program and there are departmental forms. So you know, at a certain point you have to do a committee meeting, you have to take your orals, you have to defend your thesis and those sorts of things. There are departmental forms associated with all of those. They are linked on the website, on the biology website under the graduate page for your convenience. The students who've been here a while will understand the pain of, they used to be printable forms. They are now all fillable PDFs and they are easily signed and emailed. It is very important that you sort of keep up with those forms and you get them to me as soon as possible after they've been completed. They are attached to other assessment measures and things, and they trigger those things. So it's important to keep them, to make sure that I get them on time so that I can keep those sorts of things rolling. So if you have questions about that, I can answer them. I'm happy to help. But it's super important to keep on top of that. And your orientation packets will include a copy of that timeline of when you're supposed to be turning these things in. Mind you, they are sort of a little bit flexible based on when things are happening and, you know, all of the various craziness in the world. But please try to get those forms to me as soon as possible after they've been completed. Is very important. And then my last thing is printing for teaching purposes. So obviously we don't want you spending your money to print for your classes if you don't need to, like for the classes that you're teaching. So in the past you would have had the ability to go in and print off the office copiers yourselves, but in an effort to minimize the people who are in the office at any given time, we are asking that all TAs send their whatever they need printed to Emma. So if you are doing paper quizzes in classes or anything else that needs to be printed out, please send those files to Emma to be printed at least 24 hours before you need them. Keeping in mind that Emma only works Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays in the office. So she can really only make copies on those days. So if you have a class on Thursday and you need quizzes, she has to have that email with those, with that request by Tuesday morning so that she can complete it for you. So keep that in mind as well. I know that it's not super convenient, but it is the safest way to manage the copiers and having people in the office and all of that with the virus. So I'll send out another email to all of the graduate students reminding them of that and give them a breakdown of what Emma actually, what information Emma will actually need. But I just wanted to make sure I mentioned it, that if you are printing things, you don't have to print them yourself. You don't have to pay to print them. but to please email them to Emma, sort of as she mentioned, so that they get printed and we can sort of keep people in the office to a minimum. So I think that is it for me. That's all I have. I'm, again, very grateful and very excited that we get to start this new semester together. And like I said earlier, Dr. Kinsey and I are going to do a Q&A over on Zoom, and well, right now. And the link is down in the description box. So thank you so much for making it through this video. I hope it wasn't too painful, and I'll see you soon.